Most home growers think of chili as a simple kitchen crop. You grow it, you pick it, you use it. But that description barely scratches the surface of what this plant can actually do for a serious home grower. Chili is one of the most compact, productive, and genuinely rewarding plants you can choose. And most growers are only using a fraction of its real potential. Welcome to PlantERLab, where smart growers discover plant ideas that actually make sense. In this video, we are going to look at chili as a plant. Not just as a food crop, but as a genuinely practical, space-efficient, and surprisingly rewarding choice for any home garden. We will cover how it fits real growing spaces, which varieties actually suit which growers, what it needs to perform well. And this is the part most people miss completely, why chili can offer a kind of long-term value that very few kitchen garden plants can match. That last advantage is something we will get to later in this video, and it will likely change how you think about this plant entirely. If you have not subscribed to PlantERLab yet, now is a good time. We cover plant ideas that are useful, honest, and actually grounded in real growing logic. Before we get into the specifics of growing chili, it helps to have a clear way of thinking about plant value. Because the biggest mistake most home growers make is choosing plants based on how attractive they look or how popular they seem online, rather than asking a more useful question: does this plant actually earn its space? A plant earns its space when it does at least one of four things well. First, it gives you something genuinely useful on a regular basis, not just once or twice a season. Second, it fits the space you actually have, not the garden you imagine having. Third, it is manageable for your actual schedule and attention level. And fourth, it gives you a meaningful return for the effort you put in. Run chili through those four filters, and something interesting happens. It passes all four more consistently than most plants people grow in a small garden. That is not a romantic claim. It is a practical observation. And the rest of this video is going to show you exactly why and where the real limits are too. Because every plant has limits, and understanding those honestly is part of making a smart choice. The first and most immediate reason chili earns its space is daily use value. This is not a plant you grow, harvest once, and then wait months before it gives you something again. A healthy chili plant in a reasonable growing season will produce fruit continuously across many weeks. Once it begins producing, you are not collecting a harvest and putting it in storage. You are walking to the plant and picking fresh fruit as you need it. That is a fundamentally different relationship to food growing than most annual crops offer. Think about what that means in practical terms. Chili is one of the most widely used flavoring ingredients in a huge range of cuisines. Fresh chili from your own plant is noticeably different from dried or processed versions in terms of flavor depth and heat quality. Having consistent access to fresh fruit through a long growing window means the plant is working for you continuously, not saving up for one big moment. There is also the drying and preserving angle. Excess chili fruit is easy to dry, string up, or freeze. Unlike many vegetables that require immediate use or careful storage processing, chili gives you very flexible post-harvest options. You can dry whole fruits, crush them, infuse oils, or freeze fresh for later use. This means even a modest plant can produce more usable value than the fresh harvest alone suggests on the surface. For growers who cook regularly and use bold flavors, this daily use relationship with a living plant is genuinely satisfying in a way that a bag of dried chili from the supermarket simply is not. The plant is present, producing, and useful. That combination of alive, visible, and continuously giving is exactly the kind of value that justifies real garden space. One of chili's strongest practical advantages is how well it scales down without losing productivity. Many plants that look appealing in a large garden simply do not translate well into a container or a balcony situation. They need root depth, spreading width, or more consistent conditions than a small space can reliably offer. Chili largely avoids those problems. A mature chili plant in a container of a sensible size. Broadly speaking, something in the range of 5 to 10 liters or more depending on the variety, can produce a meaningful and continuous harvest through a full growing season. The plant stays compact enough to manage, upright enough to stay tidy, and structured enough to not take over a limited space the way sprawling or vining crops tend to do. It is a genuinely container-friendly plant in practical terms, not just in theory. For growers working with a balcony, a patio, a small courtyard, or even a bright indoor-outdoor window situation, chili is one of the more honest recommendations you can make. It does not pretend to be something it is not in a small space. It actually performs. The root system is not excessively demanding, the above-ground structure remains manageable, and the continuous harvest means you are getting real return from that limited footprint throughout the season. There is also something worth noting about visual appeal in a container context. A well-grown chili plant with fruit at different stages of ripening, green shifting toward yellow, orange, or deep red, depending on the variety, is a genuinely attractive plant. It earns its ornamental presence honestly. The visual value comes as a side effect of the plant doing its job, not as a substitute for it. That is a meaningful distinction for growers who want their space to look good and produce something useful at the same time. Not all chili plants suit every growing situation equally, and this is where many growers make their first avoidable mistake. They pick a variety based on heat level or name recognition, rather than thinking about what actually fits their space, their climate, and their cooking needs. The variety question is worth taking seriously. At the most practical level, chili varieties differ in plant size, fruit quantity, heat intensity, ripening speed, and how well they handle container life. A large, thick-fruited variety that does well in a big ground-level bed may perform poorly in a small container on a balcony. A compact variety bred specifically for container growth can outperform it significantly in that same constrained situation. For beginner growers or those working with limited space, smaller and more compact varieties tend to offer a more reliable experience. They reach harvest faster, they handle container conditions with less stress, and they typically produce fruit in higher numbers relative to the plant's size. The individual fruits may be smaller, but the overall yield and the growing experience tend to be more rewarding for someone starting out or managing a space-limited garden. For growers who have more room, more experience, or a specific culinary goal in mind, wanting a particular cuisine-appropriate variety, a specific heat profile, or a fruit type they genuinely use in their cooking, it makes sense to go deeper into variety selection. Matching the variety to the use case, rather than the trend, is a much more satisfying approach. A plant that gives you exactly what you actually cook with will always earn its space better than the most popular variety that sits on your windowsill producing fruit you never quite know what to do with. Understanding what chili actually needs is just as important as understanding what it offers. This plant is not difficult, but it does have genuine requirements, and ignoring them leads to disappointing results that have nothing to do with the plant's true potential. The most important factor is light. Chili needs strong, direct sun to perform well. Ideally, at least 6 to 8 hours of good sunlight daily. This is non-negotiable for strong growth and reliable fruiting. A chili plant placed in a shaded or low-light position will survive in many cases, but it will not produce with any consistency. If your growing space does not receive adequate direct sun, chili is likely not the right fit regardless of how well it suits every other criterion. This is the first honest check every grower should make before committing. Warmth is the second key factor. Chili is a warm season plant. It does not handle frost and performs significantly better when temperatures remain consistently above a threshold that varies somewhat by variety, but is generally in the range of 15 degrees Celsius or above for reliable growth. In climates with short or unreliable warm seasons, getting the timing right matters, starting seeds early indoors, and only moving plants outside once conditions are consistently warm is a common and sensible approach. Watering needs to be consistent without being excessive. Chili does not like sitting in waterlogged soil. Good drainage is important, especially in containers. Allowing the growing medium to dry out somewhat between waterings is often more beneficial than keeping it constantly moist. Regular feeding during the growing season supports healthy fruit production, and a feed with appropriate potassium levels is commonly recommended once flowering begins. These are not complicated requirements, they are simply specific ones that reward attention. Earlier in this video, I mentioned that chili has a long-term advantage that most growers miss entirely, something that goes well beyond the usual reasons people grow this plant. This is the part I want to spend real time on, because it genuinely changes how you should think about chili as a plant investment rather than just a seasonal crop. Here's what most beginners are not told. In the right conditions, chili is not an annual plant. It is a perennial. Left outside, it will die in a frost. That part is accurate. But if you bring a chili plant indoors during colder months, or if you live in a climate where winters are mild and frost-free, a chili plant can continue growing across multiple years. This is not a niche gardening trick. It is simply the plant's natural biology. Chili originates from warm, tropical and subtropical regions. And in those climates, it grows as a shrubby perennial, not as a single-season crop that gets pulled and composted every autumn. What this means practically is significant. A chili plant that has had 1 or 2 full growing seasons behind it is fundamentally different from a first-year seedling. The root system is more developed. The plant structure is more established. When warm conditions return, an overwintered chili plant typically comes back into growth earlier, establishes faster, and often produces more fruit per season than a freshly germinated seedling of the same variety would. You are not starting from zero each year. You are building on something already proven. For growers who are serious about getting the most from a small garden or a container setup, this perennial potential is genuinely worth planning around. It requires minimal effort to take advantage of, cutting the plant back before moving it indoors, keeping it in a cool but frost-free location, with occasional watering through its dormant-like rest period, and then moving it back into position and warmth as the season turns. The return on that relatively small effort is a plant that performs better in year 2, and often better still in year 3. Now add the propagation dimension. Chili is among the easier plants to propagate from cuttings when conditions are right. This means that over time, a single well-performing plant can become the source of several new plants, either as backups, as plants for a different growing position, or as gifts to other growers. For anyone who sells or barters plants in a small nursery or community context, a mature and productive chili plant with proven performance is a genuinely useful propagation source. You are not just buying seeds and hoping. You are working with a known quantity. There is also the seed-saving angle. Chili seed is relatively straightforward to save from ripe fruit. Allowing some fruit to ripen fully, drying the seeds properly, and storing them correctly gives you a self-renewing seed stock from a variety that you know that you have grown and that suits your specific conditions. Over seasons, this compounds into a meaningful practical advantage. You are no longer dependent on purchasing new seeds each year for that variety. You understand its behavior in your specific space. That accumulated knowledge is genuinely valuable. Bring these elements together: the perennial potential, the overwintering habit, the propagation ease, and the seed-saving capacity, and a picture emerges that is quite different from the simple annual crop framing most people use when they think about chili. This is a plant that can serve a grower for many years rather than one season. Each year of investment in understanding it, maintaining it, and working with its natural biology adds another layer of practical return. Very few plants in a typical home kitchen garden offer that kind of compounding value in such a compact, manageable form. This is also where the business case for chili becomes genuinely interesting, without overstating it. A small home grower or a hobbyist with nursery ambitions who builds up a collection of proven, well-established chili plants of different varieties has something of real value to offer. Not just fruit, but rooted cuttings, seed stock, and the kind of growing knowledge that comes from experience rather than just reading. That is a different level of plant usefulness than the average single-season crop provides. None of this is guaranteed. Growing results depend on climate, care, variety choice, and the specific conditions of your garden or growing space. But the potential is there. It is real, and it is consistently available to growers who take the time to understand it. Which is why it is the most important thing I wanted to make sure you took away from this video. So let us bring this together. Chili is one of the most practical plants a home grower can choose. Not because it is the flashiest, the most fashionable, or the easiest, but because it earns its space consistently when it is matched well to the grower's actual situation. It offers daily use value through a long and continuous harvest window. It fits genuinely well into containers in small spaces when the right variety is chosen. It rewards reasonable care with reliable production, and it carries long-term value through its perennial potential, its propagation ease, and its seed-saving capacity, three advantages that most growers leave on the table entirely. Chili is best suited to growers who use bold flavors regularly in their cooking, who have access to a position with strong direct sunlight, who are willing to pay attention to basic watering and feeding needs, and who want a plant that can grow with them across multiple seasons rather than being replaced every year. If those conditions describe your situation, chili is genuinely one of the smarter choices available to you. It is not the right plant for a shaded garden, a completely hands-off growing approach, or someone who simply wants ornamental greenery without any practical use. That kind of honest fit assessment is important. No plant is right for every grower, and chili is no exception. But for the grower it suits. It is difficult to think of a more rewarding combination of compact size, continuous yield, daily relevance, and long-term compounding value in a single plant. That is a strong case, and it is one that stands up to honest examination. If this video gave you a new way of thinking about chili, or helped you decide whether it belongs in your garden this season, please give it a like. It genuinely helps more growers find content like this. If you grow chili already, or you are planning to for the first time, drop a comment and let us know what variety you are working with or what space you are growing in. We read those and they help shape future videos. And if you want more practical, research-grounded plant ideas like this one, subscribe to PlantERLab, where smart growers discover plant ideas that actually make sense.